Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, May 22nd, 2025, we're digging into some really significant AI news that dropped.
Yeah, quite a mix today.
And just a quick note up front, this whole deep dive, the research, the structure, everything for this AI Daily Deep Dive was actually generated entirely by AI from the source materials.
Which is kind of meta, given the topics.
Exactly. So the plan is to really unpack the key stories. We've got a huge new hardware collaboration.
The Ive and Altman one.
That's one. Then some big steps forward in AI coding models.
Anthropic's latest.
Right. Then a reality check on AI agents and, well, common sense.
From Salesforce. Yeah, that's an interesting angle.
And finally, that whole debate sparked by the Duolingo CEO about AI replacing teachers.
Definitely a controversial one. So, quite the range.
Okay, let's dive in. First up,
Yeah.
that collaboration between Sir Jony Ive, the Apple design legend, and OpenAI's Sam Altman.
A powerhouse pairing, for sure. Instantly makes you pay attention.
And the big news here is OpenAI actually acquiring Ive's hardware startup, IO,
Right, not just a partnership. An acquisition.
for a reported $6.4 billion. That's quite a statement.
It really is. It signals OpenAI isn't just staying in the software lane. They're serious about consumer hardware.
Apparently, Ive sees this as like the culmination of his design career, bringing design and AI together properly.
Which makes sense, given his background. And the vision they're describing,
Hmm.
it's ambitious.
Yeah, they're talking about an AI companion. Not a phone, not a computer, but some kind of third device.
Some just less. Demanding. More ambient, maybe.
Exactly. Unobtrusive, contextually aware. Altman apparently even claimed a prototype could be the coolest piece of technology that the world will have ever seen.
High praise. Sets expectations pretty high.
Well, yeah. But considering Ive's history, iPod, iPhone, you know the list.
True. The design pedigree is undeniable. And his firm, LoveFrom, taking creative leadership across OpenAI.
Yeah.
And that could influence everything they do.
Yeah, not just this one device.
And strategically, think about it. Having their own hardware gives OpenAI a direct line to the user, bypassing other platforms.
Right, like Apple or Google now. They control the whole experience.
Exactly. Building a platform, not just providing the AI models behind the scenes.
But the sources also mention the challenges, right? This isn't easy.
Definitely not. Launching a whole new category of device, super tough.
We saw Humane's AI pin, Rabbit R1. They've struggled to really convince people they need this separate thing.
Yeah, the value proposition has to be incredibly clear to overcome smartphone inertia.
So the reports say maybe we'll see something next year.
That's the timeline mentioned. We'll have to see if the reality matches the hype.
Makes you think, though. What would an AI companion have to do for you to actually buy and use it regularly?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Or $6.4 billion, I guess?
Right.
Mm.
Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the AI models themselves. News from Anthropic.
Yes, Claude Opus 4 and Claude Sonnet 4. Some big claims about performance jumps.
The one that really jumped out at me was the coding test with Rakuten. Claude Opus 4 writing and refactoring code
Autonomous.
for almost 7 hours.
Yeah, nearly 7 hours. That's a huge leap from the previous benchmark mentioned, which was around 45 minutes.
What does that actually enable, though? 7 hours of autonomous coding.
Well, it suggests AI could potentially handle much longer, more complex, more involved tasks without needing a human to constantly step in. Think about complex software projects or data analysis workflows.
So boosting productivity in a more meaningful way.
That seems to be the idea.
Yeah.
More autonomy for longer stretches. And the benchmark results they cited also look strong.
Right. They mentioned Opus 4 outperforming models like Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro and some OpenAI ones in coding and using tools.
These are key metrics for assessing how useful these models are for technical tasks.
And it wasn't just Opus 4, right? There's Sonnet 4, too.
Yes, Sonnet 4 is positioned as the more affordable and efficient option for general tasks. It replaces their 3.7 model.
Okay.
And both models apparently share improvements, like being 65% less likely to take shortcuts in their reasoning.
Which is good for accuracy, I guess.
Presumably. And better at retaining information during long tasks, especially if they're accessing local finals you provide.
They also added some features for transparency. Thinking summaries.
Right, to give you a better sense of how the AI reached its conclusion. And a beta extended thinking mode to sort of optimize its reasoning versus using external tools, trying to make the process less of a black box.
And developers can access these how?
Through the usual channels API and cloud platforms like Amazon Bedrock and Google Cloud's Vertex AI. Plus, they officially launched their Claude Code Agent tool.
Interesting. So again, thinking about you listening, if you're deep in code or data, how might an AI working for hours straight change your day-to-day?
It could shift AI from just an assistant to more of a persistent collaborator on complex stuff. But that brings us nicely to the next story, the limitations.
Ah, yes, the common sense problem, highlighted by Salesforce's chief scientist, Silvio Savarese.
This that whole jagged intelligence thing Andres Karpathy talks about.
Exactly. AI can write poetry or, ace a medical exam.
But completely fails at a simple logic puzzle, like the fox, chicken, and corn river crossing riddle.
Right. The source mentioned a ChatGPT model just tied itself in knots, suggesting totally nonsensical steps.
It perfectly illustrates the gap. And Savarese's point, as reported, is maybe chasing artificial general intelligence, or AGI, isn't the most useful goal for businesses right now.
He called AGI a moving target.
Yeah. He proposes focusing on EGI, instead enterprise general intelligence.
EGI, okay, what's the difference?
The focus shifts. It's not just about raw capability, but crucially about consistency and reliability for business use cases. An AI making a nonsensical error in a business context is a big problem.
You need it to be dependable.
Exactly. So an ideal EGI agent, according to Savarese, needs things like memory, solid reasoning, effective interaction with real-world data, smooth communication, and crucially, it needs to do all that reliably.
Makes sense. And Salesforce has their Agentforce platform designed around this idea.
That's what the report says. Built with trust and safety filters to try and prevent those common sense failures or risky actions.
Because for businesses, these AI agents need to plug into existing systems, right?
Absolutely. Imagine a virtual sales assistant. It needs to remember client history, understand nuance, give trustworthy advice consistently. It can't suddenly forget everything or suggest something bizarre.
So that basic common sense is still a huge hurdle for making AI truly useful and reliable in the enterprise world.
It seems to be a fundamental challenge they're still grappling with.
It makes you think about the AI you interact with, maybe customer service bots or work tools. How often do you hit that wall where it just lacks basic understanding?
And how much better would it be if it just had that bit more common sense?
Totally. Okay, last story, and it's a big one that stirred up a lot of reaction. The Duolingo CEO's claim about AI in teachers.
Yes. Luz Van On stating that AI will soon replace human teachers and actually teach better.
Yeah, pretty bold statement. Apparently this came out on a podcast, and it aligns with Duolingo shifting to an AI-first strategy.
Which reportedly involved replacing some contract workers and using generative AI to create a whole load new courses.
So what's his argument for AI being better than human teachers?
It boils down to personalization at scale. The idea is AI can track every single strength and weakness for every student, constantly adapting the lesson in a way a human teacher managing a whole class just can't.
So perfect tailoring leads to better outcomes, theoretically.
That's the claim. Scalability and adaptability are key parts of his argument.
But the pushback was immediate.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The reports highlight a lot of skepticism from experts. They point out a lack of strong scientific evidence for that broad claim.
And the human element.
Exactly. Things like mentorship, emotional intelligence, managing classroom dynamics, adapting to non-academic student needs. AI isn't there.
Duolingo apparently faced backlash, too. Users weren't happy.
Reports mention user dissatisfaction, yeah. And deleted social media posts, even a sort of cryptic video from the company addressing the fallout.
And what did other experts say? I remember seeing a quote.
Matthew Gesio called Van On's statements mostly marketing hype. He used that analogy of AI learning being like a bulldozer at a gym.
Right, it does the heavy lifting for you.
But it doesn't build your strength. You have to internalize it yourself to truly learn.
Makes sense. What about the actual studies?
The sources suggest the scientific consensus is more that AI is a useful supplementary tool. It can enhance learning, but it's not a full replacement.
And critiques of some studies, including Duolingo-funded ones, mention methodological issues.
Yeah, things like small samples, poor controls, potential bias. A 2023 review apparently concluded AI supports human expertise, but doesn't replace it.
Even the AI models themselves seem to agree.
Kind of amusingly, yes. Reports mention ChatGPT suggesting AI should handle admin tasks to free up teachers for the human stuff inspiration, mentoring.
There are also those broader concerns about jobs, aren't there?
For sure. Teaching is a female-dominated profession, and a UN report highlighted potential job displacement risks. And the Duolingo CFO was quoted saying their AI aims to mimic human tutoring.
Which sounds positive, but also clearly points to replacing human roles.
It underscores the tension.
So for anyone listening who's involved in education, maybe you're a student, a teacher, a parent, this whole debate must hit close to home. What does it make you think about AI's future role?
It's definitely a complex issue with no easy answers.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today.
Mm.
From, dreaming up new AI gadgets to seeing real jumps in AI's coding skills.
While also bumping up against fundamental limits like common sense.
And wrestling with huge societal questions about jobs and the future of learning. It's quite the snapshot.
It really is. A lot happening all at once.
And maybe the final thought is how all these different threads, the hardware ambitions, the coding power, the common sense gaps, the job debates, they all show this messy, ongoing process of figuring out how AI fits into our world. It's not smooth, it's not always straightforward.
No, it definitely isn't.
We're seeing incredible progress alongside real challenges and deep disagreements, all happening incredibly fast. How we navigate that intersection of technology and human reality.
Yeah.
That's the story unfolding right now. Well put. A lot to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into today's AI news.